Welcome to the Psychology of True Crime with me, RC. Sometimes when we think about testimony, we picture answers, facts, timelines. But testimony is more than just memory on record. It's a window into how a person experiences pressure, identity, and loss. Today isn't about proving anything, it's about listening. Because when someone tells their story, four separate times across different years, different defendants, and growing public scrutiny, the mind leaves quiet fingerprints behind. And before anything else, we need to acknowledge what sits at the center of all of this. Dan Markel was a father whose life ended too soon, and two children who grew up carrying the quiet weight of adult decisions they never made. The first time Wendi Adelson testifies during the trial of Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanua, the room feels quieter. This is early. The full weight of what's coming hasn't arrived yet. Her voice is measured, thoughtful, almost academic. She answers fully, sometimes even expansively. Psychologically, this is what we often see when someone feels oriented inside their own narrative. She knows who she is in the moment, a mother, a professional, someone cooperating. There's an ease to the way she speaks, not casual, but controlled. Emotion is acknowledged, but it never spills over. And this matters. When people feel safe in their version of events, the brain doesn't rush. It retrieves information smoothly. Time flows forward, not backwards. You could hear this when she confidently tells the defense attorney that the state isn't going to arrest her. At this stage, her story sounds like something she walked through many times before, not with panic, but with recognition. It's not just what she says, it's how little effort it seems to take to say it. By the second testimony during Catherine McBanua's retrial in 2022, something began to shift, not dramatically, not obviously, but awareness has entered the room. Her answers become shorter, more careful, less volunteered. The tone is still composed, but the boundaries feel tighter. Psychologically, this is where the mind begins to protect itself. When we realize our words are no longer just being heard but measured, we conserve energy. We narrow the story. We stay closer to what already feels safest. Distance begins to appear in language, soft phrases that step slightly away from certainty, not because someone is necessarily being deceptive, but because pressure changes how memory is assessed. Emotion becomes more controlled. The walls go up, not outwardly, but internally. And by this point, Charlie Adelson has been arrested. Her tone is noticeably different from the first testimony. Still calm, still controlled, but no longer effortless. By the third testimony in late 2023, the atmosphere feels heavier. This time, it's her brother's trial. This is no longer new for her, and repetition carries its own psychological cost. Her answers now lean more on what's been said before. You hear familiar phrases return. The same explanations resurface, such as when the prosecution asks what she believes about her brother's involvement, she pushes back in the same way she always has, stating she doesn't believe it was her family, and emphasizes that she's grateful the people involved are already in jail. This is often when cognitive fatigue emerges. When a story is repeated again and again, the mind stops exploring it and starts guarding it. Emotions flatten, pauses lengthen, details narrow. This isn't chaos, it's consolidation. The mind pulls inward and says, stay steady, stay consistent, don't drift. At this stage, the testimony feels less like a storytelling and more like a navigation. In the fourth testimony during Donna Adelson's trial, it feels different from all the other testimonies in one key way. It's no longer about telling a story, it's about preserving a self. By now, public attention is louder, consequences feel closer, the room carries history. Her language is tight, controlled, bound closely to what has already been said. Psychologically, this is where identity protection takes over. We see this when she's asked to identify the defendant, her mother, Donna Adelson, and she says she can't see her from where she's seated, but notes that she's wearing yellow color. There's containment here. Even in moments where, in earlier testimonies, she pushes back, saying things such as, and I quote, "You claim that, but I disagree." This time, there's restraint. When the defense introduces the banana bread analogy and adds chocolate chips into the mix, she doesn't flinch. In earlier trials, she might have. Now, she stays still. When someone has repeated a narrative many times, the brain locks it in, not because it's theatrical rehearsal, but because deviation feels dangerous. Consistency becomes less about memory and more about survival. The person on the stand is no longer just answering questions, they are holding together who they believe they are. When you listen to all four testimonies together, what stands out isn't instability, it's structure, emotional containment, careful language, a steady presentation of self. And psychologically, this teaches us something very important. Consistency can mean many things. It could mean truth, it could mean rehearsal, it could mean self protection, it could mean fear of fracture. Psychologically, psychology doesn't decide which one. It simply reminds us that under pressure, the mind teaches the mind reaches for what feels safest emotionally, cognitively, and socially. And beyond testimony and analysis, a quieter truth remains. A father is gone, children grew up without him, families were changed in ways no courtroom could ever fully repair. Understanding testimony doesn't mean deciding guilt, it means recognizing how human beings adapt when their lives become public record and when their words are preserved forever. Because in the end, psychology isn't about judgment, it's about listening, especially when the stakes are this high. This is the psychology of true crime. Thank you for being here. Let me know what stood out to you in her testimonies, and I will catch you guys on the next one.